Hi, welcome to another episode on the You Are Limitless podcast. I'm your host, Madam Chiko, coming to you from the holistic wellness space as a transformational life coach, as well as the I am that's speaking to you from the soul, from source energy, from love, from compassion. And I am so glad to be here with you on the show, having you a part of my journey and having me be a part of your journey. This is truly a co-creative thing that we're doing together, and it's just so beautiful to really tap into our limitless potential. And I come from a background of adverse experiences with having dealt with the childhood trauma, drug abuse, etc., and being able to grow and evolve from all of that and showing people how I've done it is so rewarding, because there is no right or wrong way to do anything. But I do think it's so necessary to just have that growth mindset, wanting to see yourself as part of this beautiful divine nature of reality and more, and that we are more than these limited bodies, and we are more than our limited stories, and we can thrive in our own right whenever we tap into that limitlessness that we speak on the podcast. So, that's what we're going to talk about, because sometimes I get a little bit of pushback whenever I talk about you are limitless. And yet whenever we look around and we see so much external chaos, it makes us feel like we are limited. It makes us feel contracted in our body, contracted in our vision. And sometimes it can be hard for us to really embrace that idea that we have the power to control our destiny. We have the capability to decide which way we want to go, how we want to move in this very moment. We have the ability to be present. So that's what this episode is all about, is really tapping into our limitlessness despite the chaos that is going on in maybe our political systems, maybe in certain industries that really don't advocate health. And, I talked about in the episode previously, or in a episode previously, just kind of depends on whenever I release all of this. But I'm really going to start to introduce practices that I do in terms of like holistic health, in terms of food education. No, I'm not a nutritionist, and none of this is like medical advice, but I do speak from my own experiences as well as the experiences of my friends, of my clients, and the people that I work with. Just ways that we can get back into a holistic way of running the show, because sometimes we don't have to do so much mental work, but rather it's about what are we eating? What are we consuming in terms of the content that we're consuming? Who is in our energetic sphere that maybe needs to go away in love, but maybe isn't aligned to the energy that we want to be in daily. Also, morning practices and rituals, and we're just going to tap into that. So regardless of the chaos in our food systems or in our political landscape or in global events, we can remain boundless. We can remain introspective. We can still tap into our innate intuition and internal guidance, as well as the guidance from the universe, whenever we silence all of that noise and we maintain our inner strength and we maintain that alignment and we embody that limitless mindset regardless of what's going on out there. So first we have to understand why it is we get so wrapped up in everything else that everybody is doing, or any systems in general. And personally, I just think it comes from our upbringing, where we have been conditioned to watch out for danger. And that's also part of like our biological nature too, from back in the day whenever we were fending in the jungles or in the desert or in whatever, we're fending off tigers and saber-tooths and whatnot and predators. And now our brain has switched gears, where there is no necessarily this real threat of death in that way. Yeah, I understand that depending on where you're living or depending on the environment or the people that you're around, there could be maybe some friends or even you. There's no judgment, but there could be elements of your life that could create such chaos to where you are worried about survival. And we can definitely talk more on that if that is something that I get a very high response on. But point is now we've navigated away from that type of danger, but more so the danger that we're experiencing today is more psychological danger. The fear of being judged, the fear of being castrated, the fear of losing our identity, the fear of, you name it. These are all psychological fears that create the mental dis-ease that we experience, that create the habits that we play on repeat. And whenever we leave the mind unchecked, whenever we leave the ego to run wild, and, I talk about the ego all the time. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because the ego is just so pervasive whenever we let it run the show, whenever we have the ego in the driver's seat, rather than being a passenger that we get to tell what to do, that we get to simmer down. Rather, we let the ego and the mind get a hold of us. And we do this when we start to believe the narratives of our stories, whenever we start to believe in a reality that doesn't really align to the things that we say that we want, the things that we say we want to manifest. And it just creates this cycle of confirmation bias, essentially, where we'll look out there and be like, see, I knew it. I knew it. I knew that person didn't like me. Or I knew this wasn't meant for me. I knew that this job opportunity wasn't mine. I knew that I couldn't put any of my creative content out there because look at what other people are saying. We give so much weight to what's going on out there that it in turn creates so much havoc, creates so much dissonance, creates so much dysregulation in our bodies, in our minds, in our souls, or rather in our egos. Because really, the soul can never be touched. It is only this personality construct that we are living through that gets offended, that gets butthurt, that wants to control the actions and narratives of other people. I've experienced this so much within myself, but also seeing it within the lives of the people that I grew up with, or seeing it with other family structures or old friendships. And whenever you start to really take notice of how pervasive in such a negative way, these stories of limitation, and also how much weight we give to the opinions of other people, when we start to look into that, it is such a great mindful practice because now you have stepped out of identifying so much with those narratives, identifying so much with those stories. And also, you start to see how the mind is disempowering itself and how it's keeping us stuck in loops that do not serve us, in loops that will be confirmed through our outer experience. I talk about how we have it backwards in terms of when we want to fix a problem, we go out there to try and fix it. We try to fix other people. Maybe we're in a relationship and our partner is not acting in a way that we think that they should be acting towards us or not showing compassion towards us. Well, we'll try and point fingers at them rather than looking at, wait a minute. How am I showing up for myself in this moment? This could be with anything. This could be in a job, in a workplace environment where we're mad at, I don't know, don't take this at all as if I'm talking about any particular person, but just to throw a name out, we'll point at Susie. Look at Susie's doing. Susie's not carrying her load. Susie this, Susie that. And that may be true, but also we fail to look at, well, how are we letting this affect us? How are we showing up in a way that is allowing or maybe even enabling that type of energy to continue to coexist within our own energetic sphere? How are we funneling our energy through these disempowering tunnels? Because whatever we're funneling our energy through, that is exactly what we're going to experience even if we do not make that connection. So this is how we can let the outside world affect us in such negative ways. And, I see this, and I'll get back to my point with the whole working backwards, but I see this so much, especially in the US, where something happens in the political world and then I'll get a call or a text from my friend who's just so distraught. And I completely understand. This is not coming from a place of not understanding. But at the same time, It's about how much are we going to let that affect us, or are we going to find different alternatives to get back into alignment with ourselves and move in a way that's going to help other people move in a way that is aligned to them. But we try to fix what's going on externally rather than shifting the focus internally, because when we shift the focus internally, we could start to see how we are creating the ingredients in our life that is creating the experiences out there. You know, there's a popular saying about you don't go to a mirror and try to make the reflection of you smile. No, you have to smile first, and you will see that in the mirror. And we tend to do just the opposite of that. And, you know, this is not to say that doing the opposite can't work, but there's a lot of strife and struggle and a lot of mental energy going on with that. There's a lot of ego happening whenever we try and fix everything out there. And it just creates this cyclic loop of things never aligning in ways that you know can align for you. I dealt with this for the majority of my earlier years and early 20s, where I was trying to fix everything out there, but I was crumbling on the inside. But looking internally was painful. And that's also another reason why some people may not have maybe an awareness of going inward or don't want to go inward, because it is painful sometimes whenever we go inward and we start to discover things about ourselves that we don't prefer. And the most important thing in these moments when we go inward is to go inward with compassion. Go inward with no judgment, because that is what makes the process scary. That is what makes the process daunting. And that is what provokes anxiety. That's what provokes this idea of self-hatred rather than moving in a place of love and compassion and holding yourself with grace. And I just love talking about all this stuff because I've tried so many different ways in terms of getting back into alignment, really understanding my limitlessness, trying to find purpose, trying to let go of the mind stories and the ego identification, you name it, all kinds of different practices. And I noticed that it is just so much more challenging when we're coming from a place of judgment and criticism and a lack of self-love. So mindfulness and being able to recognize when you are judging yourself, because, you know, anytime you're judging anyone out there, you're judging yourself. To not think that you are not an extension of the earth, of people, is to me ridiculous, because how can you be a separate entity? We are all connected in some way. We're all vibrating at some frequency. And depending on the frequency to which that we are vibrating on, we're going to experience with that frequency what it has to offer. Not necessarily everything. And this is not saying that I'm saying that you deserve certain things to happen to you if you're experiencing XYZ. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it's like if you have an open wound, now you're more susceptible to maybe having that wound get infected. Or if your immune system is low, now you're more susceptible to maybe experiencing some type of illness or something. It's that same thing. Whenever you're resonating at a vibrational frequency that's compatible with chaos, then you are more susceptible to buy into the chaos, to become a part of that chaos and not really understanding why things are happening to you, and then start to develop maybe a victim mentality, or maybe that concept of, well, life is just happening to me, as opposed to realizing that you are the creator of your reality. And if you're the creator of your reality, that's a powerful, limitless place to be, because that means that you can create creatively. You can create differently. And I know that was a lot. But this is all part of why, even when we're experiencing upheaval and instability in the world around us, we can remain grounded in the turbulence. We can remain true to the things that we say are true for us, regardless of what's going on out there, regardless of what the family says, regardless of what your school says, your friends say. What is true for you? And then align to that, and then take action from that. This requires us to do that internal work, though. This requires us to do a little bit of inquiry into our habits and our beliefs and our stories, and also really feeling into our bodily sensations of why am I feeling this way. This is not just mental as well. We can do this with how we move physically. And I know that some people don't like working out or anything that involves physical exercise or physical activity, and I get it. But when we start to even just do mindfulness practices by controlling our breathing, noticing our breathing, that right there is movement. Okay? I'm a huge fan, by the way, of exercise. And I've gone that way too and have experienced over exercising. But there's something about moving your body that can help with getting stuck energy out. It also helps connect you to that internal state of being of what is true for you. So start to incorporate maybe some exercise practices that don't have to be extraneous, doesn't have to be so difficult. It can be 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, every other day, something that connects you and grounds you before you do anything else. The other thing is like establishing a morning routine. And, I'll talk more about this in later episodes to come, because repetition is the mother of all learning. The more you do something, the more you start to crystallize these. That's a new habit. You start to rewire your brain, your neural circuits to be conducive to the new version of yourself that you are creating, that you have the power to control. This version of yourself is the limitless version that has always been there, but has been boggled down by old belief systems, by patterns of behaviors and habits, by eating habits, which we'll talk all about that too, because, and this is why it's so important to stick around, like, share, subscribe, love, because the things we're going to be talking about, the things that we have already talked about, are here to help guide you as a signpost back to victory, back into your truth before the world came in and told you how to be, told you how to dress, told you who to listen to, what to listen to, told you how to move in society. And the world includes your parents as well. The world includes your guardians. The world includes any system that has been telling you that you should do this or you should do that. I will never tell you to do anything. I will only suggest things. And if it works for you, beautiful. And share it as well. If it doesn't, but you find something else, oh my gosh, that's the goal, is to find what works for you that aligns to what you say you want and need and you want to manifest in this life, because you can do it. Don't tell me that you can't, because that is a belief. That is a belief stemming from some type of past, some type of event, some type of person telling you their own limitations, their own negative beliefs. And when we break free from that idea of can't, when we break free from the idea of identifying so strongly with what's going on out there by turning inward, complete game changer. So start today to start to incorporate different habits, how you're eating. Because, the way we eat, there are people, I'm not saying to move in a more meat diet or vegan or vegetarian. That's not my goal. My goal is for you to eat intuitively, to eat consciously, to set your intentions, to bless your food, to watch what you're eating. Because sometimes we can find that the reason why we're experiencing some type of bodily discomfort or different energy levels that may be of lower frequencies or lower vibrations, it's possible it could be what we're intaking. And like I said in the beginning, our diet, what we intake, whether it is social media content, the books that we listen to, the TV that we watch, the people that we're around, our environment, the food that we eat, that all plays a factor in how we show up for ourselves and how we show up in the world. It all plays a factor. But once you start to establish these new neural connections through going inward, through watching your thoughts, through moving your body, through eating in a way that's more aligned to what it is that you say is good for your body, by noticing whenever you're having a reaction to your environment, you start to sustain these changes long term. So let's say you do fall off for some whatever reason. It's much easier to come back on because you've already established that as a new program that your operating system is operating on. So be mindful. Breathe much more deeply. Watch who you're connecting with. Watch what you're connecting to. Don't get caught up in the upheaval. Don't get caught up in the instability of the division. Don't get caught up in the division, in the dividedness, in the this or that, in the this person is this, so I'm not going to like them. Don't get caught up in any of that mind games, because that is not the true you. The true you is limitless. The true you is compassionate. The true you is love. It's just the ego and the mind that has experienced all kinds of traumas and things that we don't prefer that has really colored our views and our reality and our ability to perceive things in a way that is much more conducive to love and light. But we can get there. And just speaking from my own experiences, not my clients, not anyone in particular, but speaking from my own experiences of growing up with such dense negative energy, growing up with so much physical abuse and all kinds of abuse, and overcoming that, I am no different from anybody else. I am no different, okay? Anyone can do it. What are you putting your energy into? How do you want to transmute that negative energy? And let me know what you think about this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on Y'all, You Are Limitless. I am always, 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 always grateful for the opportunity to get back into alignment with you guys. And I'm grateful for everybody that listens and share this content, because the more or less people we have hurting people, the better chance we have of creating a more harmonious society and reality that's congruent with love and compassion. And we can get there. These ideas are not too far-fetched. They're not fantastical. They're not abstract. They're practical. They are our true nature. So what are we feeding our energy, right? Thank you guys so much for being here with me. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to be able to create content for you guys, because the healing is both ways. You help me heal, I help you heal, we all help each other heal, and we step into the highest version of ourselves. But most importantly, we get back into alignment whenever we feel like we are not. So tap in, tune in, like, share, subscribe, love. If you would like to work with me in the You Are Limitless coaching program, reach out. I have limited spots available. I do this on purpose. This is so that I can really focus my attention specifically on very few people as I work on my other projects on the side. So if you feel called to work with me, reach out. My links are in the show notes. You can set up a time to meet. You can email me. You can hit me up on Instagram at Madam Chiko. And just know that I am just so grateful to even have the opportunity to speak with you and learn about your story and learn about the things that you've gone through and also where you want to go. So reach out. Links are in the show notes. And as always, you are limitless, and I am more than happy to help you see that. See y'all next time on You Are Limitless.